Hi. So sometimes you want to build some kind of interactivity between the players or between the teams into the game. And we are slowly introducing new blocks that help you do that. And this is a video about one of those new blocks. So you can build rules based on how others have been answering the tasks within your game. So to explain it, let's create a new game. Let's take 3 tasks from public collection and let's go to the rules. I'll get rid of the default block for now, and the block that we are going to look at is the logic block, and it's called answer is correct by any team. Now the corresponding block is answer is correct, and this is local, meaning that answer is correct by you, and that means that it only applies to you. And we are not going to dig into that at the moment. But then the block that we are interested in is that answer is correct, incorrect, or correct and incorrect by any team within that game. That means you, and that means anybody else playing it. Now, before we go into building the rules, there are 2 things that you probably want to consider. First one is, what does the correct, incorrect, or correct or incorrect mean? It is a little bit different between the tasks. For example, if you are using no answer task or the story type task, then it can only be answered correctly. So it will never be answered incorrectly unless the time runs out for the task, and then it is answered incorrectly actually. Now the second thing that you might think about is the photo task. The photo task is answered correctly when the photo is made. When the photo is skipped, then it is considered incorrect. The usual task types like multiple choice, text, number answer, these are quite easy. It's either defined correct or incorrect. And you can of course define the ranges and several options there as well. And also important to know is that if the task runs out of time, then it is considered answered incorrectly at the moment. This behavior might change, but at the moment it's like that. So when using the option here, you should think about if the task can actually return incorrect, in what circumstances does it do it, and also what you should think about is that what happens if something is answered incorrectly. So do you need to actually also define the correct, and do you also need to define the incorrect option? The third option here just means basically the task has been answered somehow. It doesn't mean if it doesn't matter if it was correct or incorrect. Now that is the first consideration. The second consideration is that what does the by any team mean? And in usual terms, it's quite simple. It means basically all the players or all the devices that are playing within this game. If you're using general username and password, that is basically all the players there. However, there are some considerations that might affect it. First of all, if you are testing it, then testing happens in a separate scope, and all the testing teams affect each other, but they do not affect the general gameplay. Now the second thing to take into account with this is that it affects everybody within this specific scope. So if you're playing with general username and password, you are in default scope that are starting the game whenever. So that means that if somebody starts the game and answers some tasks, then it might be that somebody starting the game way later will be actually affected by the answers of the person who already played. So they don't need to play at the same time. They just need to have been playing in the scope. And the third thing is connected to the tickets. And that is that tickets can have separate scope. So when you want this rule to affect several ticket holders, you need to make sure that these tickets are on the same scope so they affect each other. So let's say family buys several tickets, they want to play a city game against each other. You need to make sure that they are in the same scope, then they appear in the same results table, and then they also are affected by this rule. Now the outcome of this is that sometimes when you are testing the game, you might find that you cannot really effectively test, because everything you have done before will affect the behavior later. So you can't test the full game as somebody has maybe made some actions already. In this case, if you want to test the full game again, you need to either use the scope or then just clone the game and start it again in testing mode. Now let's create some rules and see what the use case is. And I'm going to cover one very simple use case here, and we'll want to create some logic. And the idea, what I want to do is that I want to show 3 tasks for all the players when they start the game on the map. And then when somebody answers a task, they will disappear for everybody. So this is what we're going to build. So first off, when task 1 is not answered correctly by any team, show task 1 on the map. That is what it does. And same for the second. So you see I'm actually referring back to the task, which is okay and generally in rules. And of course I need to set the locations for these tasks as well, and I'm just gonna add them here near the lake. Doesn't really matter where they are or how they look like. So what this rule set does is following. You start the game, nobody has answered any tasks, and everybody will see task 1, task 2, task 3, because no task has been answered correctly. Now if somebody goes to the task 1, he's able to open it and they answer it, and if they answer it correctly, that means that this sentence here is not true anymore. So the task 1 will disappear for everybody from the map. Until that is done, actually, the people can open the task 1. So this rule set still allows multiple teams to open the task at the same time. So there is possibility that several teams has the task 1 correct, because they might have opened it before it was correct. But once somebody has answered it, others will not be able to activate it on the map anymore. So this is one of those very simple use cases. Thanks, and take care.